This is Jordan Edwards, and this is the Business Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. Good afternoon, Al Iaquinta.
My man, how are you?
There he is.
Everything.
Everything's great. Really great to see you. And a pleasure to have you on the Business Jiu-Jitsu Podcast.
The last time I saw you, we were doing jiu-jitsu, shooting guns, and throwing weights around. That was a pretty incredible event that you had. What was the name of that range, the shooting range?
F6.
F6. I couldn't believe, it's like a warehouse in the back of, what was it in Mineola? Where was that? Hicksville.
Yeah, Hicksville.
It's a warehouse in Hicksville, just warehouse area. You walk in and it's like you're in Men in Black. It was like the state-of-the-art facility, shooting guns with like screens and everything. It was incredible, really incredible. I thank you for hosting that event and having me over there. It was really just a great time. Great way to start the day. Best morning I've had in a while, that's for sure.
I'm so happy to, first of all, have you there as a participant. You leveled up that room, and the caliber of all the guys that were there was just world class in most of the things that they do. But the fact that we had world-class fighters, world-class jiu-jitsu instruction, world-class firearms instruction, world-class weight training instruction, and then all the participants were some of, this area's most successful business people was crazy. I mean, I was trying to count it, just rough count on my fingers, and there's probably $10 to $15 billion worth of transaction volume in that room alone, a year. So just crazy, some of the careers of these guys. And then the one thing tying everybody together is that like everybody wants to just get a little bit better in some deficient area that they have.
Yeah, and everyone did. I can assure that. Some great connections were made. I met some great people at the event that I would never connected with. And it was really, there's just what an incredible idea, and how many people think of something like that and then try to do it and don't succeed. And then you actually thought about it, put pen to paper, and followed through with it. Incredible. Couldn't be more happy to have been there. It's great.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. You're officially my new hype man. We'll cut it up and use your true testimonial. But I'll tell you one quick thing about how this whole thing came together: the podcast, the book, and then this event series. So for years, I started training jiu-jitsu in 2009 under Sensei Nardu, who you know. And over the years, teammates of mine would come up to me after training and start asking me questions about business, knowing that I was a businessman. Some of the conversations that I had were a guy who was in law enforcement. He was thinking about leaving law enforcement to start a t-shirt business. He loved fashion. Another guy was wanted to start flipping homes. I had flipped a lot of homes. Another guy wanted to open up a gym. And so we would be on the mat, and these guys would have no frame of reference about anything. They didn't speak the language of business.
Yeah.
But they'd be great martial artists and great in their field. So I'd start to talk to them about simple truths about business, because they would ask me these questions. How long does it take to become successful in business? How long is it going to take me? How much money do I have to invest? And I'd be like, well, that's kind of like asking how long does it take to get your black belt? So we'd have like these very simple conversations. And what I recognized about my jiu-jitsu around 2018, 2019 was I had two totally separate lives. I had my jiu-jitsu life, and then I had my business life. And I barely talked about jiu-jitsu in my business life. Most of the people, even my family, would be like, "Are you still doing that karate thing?"
Yeah.
So I made this decision that I would bring these two worlds together. And I was like, there's all these guys out there that are training jiu-jitsu, that are training martial arts, and they're like me. They're businessmen. They run companies. And I was like, I'm going to go talk to those people. I'm going to go find all those guys. And then I made a list of the people I wanted to talk to. And they just started talking to me, Al. It was pretty cool. And that's where Business Jiu-Jitsu came. And my book, which I gave you a copy of on the day, that's how that book came together.
Yeah.
And
Incredible.
when the book was over, I already started to think about the next thing I wanted to do. And so you're right in saying, like, the thing that I give myself credit for is that when I have an idea, I do it.
Yeah.
Is that something you relate to?
No, absolutely. I think that's such an important. I'm sure you were so striking. I mean, maybe you weren't, but I just know for me, like, I'll set a goal to do something. I'll organize some sort of event, or I'll set some kind of goal, and I know, like, it seems so far and so unattainable, but I set that goal and I have to make it happen. And the deadline's coming, and it's just got to anything you got to do to make it happen. You have to do, and it goes along with a lot of stress. And it would have been very easy for you to just go along with your everyday life and status quo and everything great. I'm sure you're doing fine, but you want to push to that next level. You got to get uncomfortable, and I'm sure getting in front of people and talking and promoting this event and doing that kind of stuff pushes you outside of your comfort zone, and that's when you push to the next level. So yeah, I can definitely resonate with any. It's really, you set a goal to do something, and then you follow through with whatever it took to make it happen. And I'm sure there were probably a lot of things that maybe you wanted to do that did. Well, I know in my when I'm doing stuff and I think that was the first time you did an event like this. Afterwards, you're probably thinking like, oh, well, this went great. I could have worked on this. Maybe I should do this for the next time. And it's like,
Oh, yeah.
you just do it. You get it in, you figure it out. And then once you do the first one, you're already so far ahead of the competition of people that haven't done, they just didn't do it. It's like, and so many things in life, the biggest thing is just doing it. You don't even have to be good at it. You just have to do it. And I'm not saying that was incredible, but it's just anything in life, like, as long as you do it, you already wiped out 99% of the people in the world. And then if you do the number 2 and number 3, and then you just keep building on it, then you're just unstoppable.
Yeah, it's so true. Well, I will tell you this. Doing events like that and doing a lot of things in business, especially this point in my career, I'm 40, they have become easier for me. But you and I were just talking off camera. You asked me how my training was going, and I told you that I just competed in the pens 2 Fridays ago, and I did very poorly. And I had the best training camp of my whole jiu-jitsu career of my life. I got in the best shape of my life. But when my bracket was released and I saw my competitors, I almost had like a full panic attack. Yeah. I looked them up on the internet. I saw their abs. I saw how much they were competing every weekend, and I haven't competing. And I was in a full on, I can't believe I have to do this. I'm going to go get hurt. I'm going to fight. And but then I was like thinking about you, and, one of my very, very close teammates and friends is Randy Brown, active fighter in the UFC.
Love Randy Brown.
The greatest guy and such a great teammate and competitor. When you were walking out there, let's go backwards in your career. I'll start with the career in fighting, and I'll move back towards like when you're growing up wrestling in high school and college. But when you're walking out there to fight Khabib, what is going through your head? I mean, if I could set you up, you gave Khabib the hardest fight of his career. I mean, you brought it to him in a way nobody else had. You challenged him. What was that like walking out?
It was pretty freeing walking out. I was kind of like, at that point, adrenaline just takes over, and what will be will be. All the years of training, at that point, I couldn't do anything. It was like I knew what I was mentality wise. I knew what I was physically. I knew what I was cardiovascularly. There was no training. The training was over. There was nothing else I could do. There was nothing. It was what it was. I was going out there. I was fighting like one of the most feared guys, with the ground and pound, and he mauled people and whatnot. And I was like, well, let's just go out there and kind of have fun. There was no, it was very, very freeing. And I was kind of like, I was just like kind of like laughing to myself, like it's crazy how I got here, and
Yeah.
let's make something happen. Fight went good, not the way I wanted to go, but I think it definitely opened a lot of people's eyes. It kind of put me over on a lot of people. At that point in my career, and did good things. Although it was not the result that I wanted, it was definitely. Oh, it was a culmination of like even though I didn't get a training camp for him, I was thrust into a 5-round title fight, training for 3. I used the career's worth of training and everything that I had throughout my whole life to go in there and then just roll the dice. I believed in myself. I believed that there were certain ways he beat other people that he wouldn't be able to get me in those positions. And then he surprised me with a few things, in fact. But definitely a crazy night, a crazy weekend. But yeah, it was definitely a freeing experience. The moment my walkout song played and I started walking out, it was all just running on instinct.
Yeah. I think that's so well said. And one of the things there's some commentary on the internet. People have given you an incredible amount of credit for the way that you approach that fight with like an extreme high level of fight IQ. How much strategy goes into fighting versus just like you're saying, being free and just letting your whole collection of experiences just happen in the fight?
Yeah, it's like I think it's something that's like nothing else. It's you gotta you revert back to your training and you're almost like your worst form of yourself. I guess you kind of not like in training. Like you always keep your hands here, and if you keep your hands here in training, when you fight, your hands here. It's just a natural reaction, and you have to train and train and train and train to get your hands here to where when you fight, they're just maybe just here. So it's you've got to you revert back to your training in the octagon, and it exposes every little flaw that you have in your game, and there's no hiding anything. Anything that happened in a training camp comes out in the fight. You can't, there's no bluffing, there's no bullying, there's no fake. It's all out there. You can't. You're there. You got a pair of shorts on and nothing else. Pair of gloves and your mouthpiece cup. That's it. And if you took a round off in training, you're not taking that point comes where God asks you if you want to round off in the cage, and if you say yes, you're tapping.
Yeah.
It's all out there in the cage, and it's the craziest thing. It's like it's real life, but with physical consequences. You can play any other sport, and if you make a mistake, they score on you, or you make a mistake in business, you get hit. But in the octagon, your life's on the line. There's nothing and if you can prepare for that, and it's almost more remarkable for the people that don't prepare, for the people that know they're going to have to go in there and fight for their lives, and then they're taking rounds off or they're not doing what they're supposed to do. So it's the realest thing out there. It's the craziest thing, and it's definitely like a metaphor for life in a lot of ways.
That's the whole purpose of why I do this podcast and have these conversations, is just to hear you say what you just said.
Yeah.
And it's been the most powerful thing in my life for business. It's like I was a risk adverse kid. When I was even learning to walk, I had a best, well, he's still my best friend, but we're born 4 days apart at birth.
Wow.
He's a crazy risk taker, and he was born that way. And we would be by the pool as kids, and he'd be walking right up to the edge of the pool, and I'd be hanging a few feet back from the pool. And then when we grew up skiing together, big skiers, and he would be bombing through the trees and I would be kind of calm in the middle of the trail.
Yeah.
And that was just my nature. And it was my nature really until I found jiu-jitsu. And I, over years and years and years, started to develop more of a killer instinct. When I was 28, all of my like talent in business, because I had a lot of natural talent, I had a lot of business gifts. I could stand in front of a room, I could public speak. That was the natural part of who I was. When I was 28, after having, basically 5 years of crazy success, I had my first major test, and I had to figure out if I was going to just give up and quit and tap out in business, or if I was going to rise to the occasion and learn new things and new skills. And thank God I had already started jiu-jitsu, because I knew what you just said is that my soul was there bare to be seen for the first time.
Yeah.
And had not been for jiu-jitsu, I probably would have quit, for sure. But I had been tapped out so many times in training that I knew what it was like to encounter a black belt.
Yeah.
And I was so eager to carry over those lessons into my business life that jiu-jitsu had taught me. And one of the ones that was the most important one is what you just described about being in the middle of that cage. But the thing is, in the UFC, you're in front of the whole world. Pay-per-view, $89 to pay to be there, and all your family and friends watching, binary win or lose. In business, you can hide behind your desk. Like, you need to shine that light on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's well, it's like you sign up for a fight, whether it be an amateur fight or even a jiu-jitsu competition. That's your UFC. It's an experience in which you've never had before. It's breaking out of your comfort zone. And for you going into your first jiu-jitsu match, for me going into my first amateur fight, or whether it's a UFC champion going into their first title fight, like that, breaking through that barrier, it's the same experience just over and over again. It's just, doing something you've never done before, pushing through, your first big business meeting, stepping out on the mat for the first time and competing, stepping into the cage as an amateur, as a pro for the first time in whatever level it is. However, every time you're growing bigger and bigger. And it's the same thing I would imagine in business, is that, and for me in like real estate, it's kind of like the same thing. I have my first listing appointment. I meet with a seller, the house is worth, whatever it's worth. And then, you're dreaming, you're looking at like, the multi-million-dollar houses, you know what I mean? And you're like, it's so scary, like, oh, I don't even, you know what I mean? And then boom, you get a call. Want to sell my house. Where is it? Garden City, Manhasset, Sands Point. Like, oh my, like, let's go. You know what I mean? You kind of like get that same, and it's the same experience. It's like the first time, but your stuff. You've been, you've gone on the mat and you've competed for the first time. You know what it takes to get out there. You've gone on you've signed up for a fight and you've gone on there. It's all like the first experience of many, and it's all, every time you push that boundary, it's like the first time you're doing something, but it's all the same. Once you get used to pushing the boundaries, it's like you're comfortable being uncomfortable. And it's like you're almost like looking for the next thing to sign up for. You're looking for, oh, I just did I hosted this event. Now I got to do another one, but I can't do it the same way, because now I'm like, it's like you're almost like an adrenaline junkie at that point. But with business, with anything,
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing is, like, when you do something with your full heart and you do it for the right reasons, and you truly love it, I've always found like an abundance will flow into you. Like, when I started this podcast, the only thing I had was a list and the microphone. But when I started doing it, all the people I wanted to talk to somehow just started becoming available to me by just starting, like what you said earlier.
Yeah.
And when I did this first event that you attended, all I did was post it on social media, and I've had people reaching out to me from all over the country inviting me to do it. Earlier today, I spoke to someone who wants to do it in Manhattan. Last week, I have someone who wants to do it in Massachusetts. I developed a relationship with the team over at the Sig Sauer Academy up in New Hampshire through putting this out there. I was invited to do one in Las Vegas. I was invited to do it in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. It's like, that was just from one event. You know, I have 7 or 8 leads to do my next event, and I wasn't even trying, you know, and like, what I just described takes a career to figure out. So I don't want anyone who just does one and they don't get that. But for you, like, in what I found in real estate is like, when you do a good job by someone, they want to tell all their friends about you.
Yeah.
You know, you sell someone's home and you give them unbelievable service, and now you got 3 people knocking down your door because they want to buy a home or they want to sell a home too. And so, like, when you do things really well, people want to tell other people about it. It's like it's an amazing thing how in my fashion business, I own Mixology Clothing Company. We have 16 brick and mortar stores. I'm the CEO of that company. And in that business, I tell all my managers, if you throw a great event at the store, and we throw over 650 events a year, when you throw a great event, all the people who came are your next lead.
Yeah.
And if you don't get a lead after the event, it means you have to change something up. You didn't do a very good job at the event. Because if you did a great job, everybody there is going to want to throw the next event with you. And that's just like what I found to be like a simple truth about business and doing these things the right way. So let's take it back for a second. I told you the story when I first met you at the event, but your dad was a very important person in my brother's life. And I imagine you hear that a lot. I'm going to tell you why I say that in a second. But your dad was a long-time coach here on Long Island, and he coached football at Hewlett, at Limbrook. Is your dad still coaching?
He was at Manhasset for 6-7 years. They won the Rutgers Cup, and then he retired for about 30 minutes, and he realized they needed a offensive coordinator at Belmore JFK.
Yep.
So he's now at Belmore JFK. They're 3-2. Belmore JFK, not known for their football. I don't know if they won a game last year, but they do have playoff aspirations for this year, which would, be an incredible feat. And he's still going strong. He can't slow the guy down.
So I'll tell this, since I already told it to you, but I'll tell everybody listening to this. So Al's dad is this legendary Long Island coach. And when my brother was a junior in high school, he blew out his ACL and wasn't able to play football or lacrosse anymore. It was devastating to him as a young kid. And his lacrosse coach, when he got hurt in the lacrosse season, basically never spoke to my brother again. He became almost like a leper on the team, a burden, and made my brother feel almost like he should just leave the team because he wasn't really a part of the team anymore. But when the fall season started up again in senior year, your dad made my brother an assistant coach, like a student coach on the team. And just because he couldn't play anymore, he didn't treat my brother like someone who wasn't on the team. He treated him like he was as important of a person on the team as anybody else. And that's not only did it stick with my brother for all these years, but it stuck with my parents. And, when I had mentioned to my dad that you were going to be at my event, he told me this story. I didn't know this story and I didn't remember this story, but the imprint that left on my family was incredible. And alternatively, the imprint that the other coach, I'm not going to name him, but that the other coach left on my family was equally as important. And I thought to myself, I can only imagine how many kids throughout your dad's probably at least 35-year career, I would imagine, he's left this mark on. So anyway, before I turn it back to you, I'll also just say that just 2 days ago, my insurance agent, longtime guy, his name is Mark Feinberg, and your dad was his coach at Limbrook. Mark's got to be in his early 50s, but he was his coach also, and he doesn't know anything about this story, and he doesn't know that you and I are talking, by the way. and he brought up your dad to me. So what was it like to grow up with a dad like that, legendary coach?
Crazy. Oh man. Yeah. I mean, it is pretty wild to, the degrees of separation between somebody and my father. Like pretty much wherever I go, it's 1 degree of separation. Somebody knows my father, played for him, was taught by him, and has a similar story. So it's incredible. The people that he's had an impact on, and growing. I mean, I credit, so much of like, between him and my mother, everything that I am with the way that they've raised me. And I just remember I had the best idols growing up, because my father and my mother were the idol, but they passed it. Like I learned through their players. Like every year there was, their stud players, and my dad would come home and like I idolized these guys. You know what I mean? And every year there was a different crew that came in. So like I definitely, and he would always tell me like what made them great, and really not even the players, or just really anybody that was, helpful on the team, the other coaches that were on the team. Like he would just like, the football is, it's like sports are society, and sports, it's a microcosm for society. And the way he talked about the football team was, my interpretation of like the world, so like the work ethic, the drive, the people that succeeded, or the people that weren't succeeding, the people that upset him because he saw the potential in, but knew that they could do so much better if they only dedicated themselves. So that was kind of like, that was my world. And I saw like through the football team that he was coaching was like, my interpretation for like the whole world. So I think that sports played just a huge part of like my development and my growth. And then he later on started coaching lacrosse, but he would always talk about the wrestlers, and he always looked up to the rest. Like Reggie Jones, Paul Gillespie, these were all guys that my dad looked up to, and I looked up to my dad, and my dad's like talking about Reggie Jones and Coach Gillespie and like these guys. And I'm like, he's like, no one messes with the wrestlers. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was like, they just carry themselves differently. And when I hear my dad talking about wrestling like that, I was like, that was when I was like, I got to get in. If I was, a little smaller on football team, I was maybe not the best. I saw myself succeed way more and way quicker in wrestling. So that's kind of like.
Did you grow up in Wantagh?
Yeah. I started wrestling in 7th grade in Wantagh.
That's a great wrestling program here on Long Island.
Yeah. At the time wasn't really, as strong. My senior year was the first year that we won the county championship. Before that, Wantagh was never a great team. We never really had like the youth program, and guys would start wrestling in 7th grade, and there wasn't really like an off season. Now Coach Murphy came in my senior year, and now it's Coach Gillespie, Coach Hanley, and they've created something that's just dynasty, because these kids are wrestling from the time they're young. By the time they get to the middle school, they're putting them in that same program, and when they're in high school, they're just ridiculous. So to see the transformation of the Wantagh wrestling room has been quite an experience too.
Yeah, that was. I didn't even know that wrestling was an option. I didn't know anything about wrestling. My high school, I went to boarding school. They had canceled the wrestling program a couple years before I got there. Funny enough, John Cena went to my high school, and he was a part of the wrestling program before it was canceled. So like there was a wrestling program at my school, and we had, one of the biggest WWE stars anyway, but he had a very good wrestling and football career.
Wow.
And I didn't even know it was an option. I never encountered it. I never encountered martial arts. I never encountered jiu-jitsu. I played lacrosse my whole life. I played soccer my whole life. I wish more than anything in the world that I could have wrestled.
Yeah.
That was my greatest wish. And so my kids are now, my oldest is 7, and then I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old girl. But I'm trying so hard to get my kids into wrestling. But again, they don't offer wrestling in their school. And then I saw, Kyle Sermonera has been on the podcast a few times, and he's got a wrestling program, but it starts a little later for these kids.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to get them started as soon as possible.
Oh, absolutely. He's a beast.
Yeah, we're blessed to have him on Long Island teaching and doing. He's incredible talent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I trained with him just one time, very light at Vanguard, and he falls into the category of people who are doing a different sport than me. He's so much better than me. Yeah. I didn't have a chance to train with you, but I'm sure there's like some of these people, like Jason Rao, that when he touches me, I can feel that he's far beyond anything I've gotten to in terms of jiu-jitsu or grappling arts.
It's incredible when you go with one of those high level guys like Jason Rouse, just crazy. It really does. It makes you feel like an inferior person growing with Jason Rao. You're like, is that my leg or is my leg your leg now that you're ripping off? Does it belong to you? You lose control over your body. You're like, oh my God, and what a nice guy too, right? He's just
unbelievable. Big shout out to him. He was our head coach at the Business Jiu-Jitsu event, and also he helped me with my training for the PANs. So really grateful to him. He's going to be on the podcast soon, so we'll get to hear his story. And,
amazing!
Shout out, Jason. Really grateful for you, friend.
I've
trained at his academy over the years, just like as a drop-in. I have some friends there.
Yeah. I trained with him when I don't know. He might have been like a white belt or a blue belt. He might not even been, but we were we training at Sarah's together for 20 years ago. And to see how good he's gotten and the credit that he's gotten on the world stage, people from all over the world come over to train at Vanguard. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah, they call him the coach's coach. He's up there with the people who are the most respected in the sport for their technical understanding and prowess, and just a great guy. Really grateful to know him, and happy to have that high level skill here on Long Island. I mean, you can't miss. There's so much great jiu-jitsu here and great martial arts, but his 2 academies are really special places. So that's awesome. Absolutely. So you started wrestling 7th grade. You wrestled Wantagh. You had a little stint in here on Long Island, right? Nassau.
Yeah, I wrestled through high school. Wrestled a year at Nassau Community College.
Yep.
And then after high school, I had gone to UFC 53.
Wow.
And Atlantic City, Boardwalk Hall. And from that moment, I saw the energy in that arena was just crazy. There's nothing like a UFC event. I've been to football, basketball, baseball, NFL, MLB, NHL. I don't know. You can't match the energy in the arena of a UFC event. So when I saw that, I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yep.
I got to know what it feels like to be in there for one of those. So I wrestled as a freshman at Nassau Community College, one of the top JUCO junior colleges in the country. Sure. So I wrestled in a lot of big tournaments with a lot of big, D1 schools and stuff. So it definitely was a great season. I cut way too much weight. I wasn't, I was more like, it was like a weight cutting season for me. I wrestled at 141, and then when I ended up fighting at 155. But after that season, I ended up at a gym and just started training and just fell in love with it. I was just all in on fighting after that, and started in the amateur scene in New Jersey. At the time, it was still illegal in New York.
Right. Ring of Combat, right?
Well, that was the regional. I was fighting in. They were like events, amateur events held in gymnasiums. It was called Clash of the Cage.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I remember.
It was old school, old. This is like going way back. This is like the first amateurs fights,
Yeah.
and then I had like 14 amateur fights,
Wow.
MMA fights, 14 amateur MMA, and I was competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments and kickboxing fights. I would fight every weekend. I was just trying to get as many fights in as I could. I just loved it. I loved it so much, and I knew that I was gonna become pro eventually, and I just wanted to get all the experience that I could. So I ended up going to Ray Longo's after my amateur career because I was with a Militich affiliate, Pat Militich. Militich Fighting Systems had an affiliate gym here on Long Island, but I was kind of like the big fish in a small pond,
Yeah.
and I knew to get to the next level I had to be with Matt Serra and Ray Longo. I went over to train with them, and yeah, they turned me pro. Ring of Combat, had a bunch of fights at the Ring of Combat, and then got onto the Ultimate Fighter, and from there it
Yeah.
was
You were on the show,
yeah,
right? Yeah. I
yeah,
remember.
made it on
Remember.
the Ultimate Fighter, and yeah, it was a crazy experience, great experience. Um, Talk about business jujitsu. Uriah Faber's he's a business jiu-jitsu guy. He's business MMA guy.
Yeah.
He's got a great mind. I was so blessed to have him as a coach because he I feel like I could have had any coach, any UFC fighter could have been the coach, and I would never have gotten as much out of it as I did with Uriah Faber. Not only was he good coach on the MMA side, he brought in Team Alpha Male, and I got to train with those guys every day. But he
Yeah.
also he didn't stop there. It was more like a life coach. He preached personal development and setting goals in life, in business, and in fighting as well. And he kind of opened my eyes to life after fighting. And you can't just win a fight, take take your money and spend it.
Yeah.
Investing and real estate was a great asset for him and has been for me. I kind of took his
Interesting. That's
blueprint.
where it came from. Well, Uriah Faber was the first person to turn you on to it in that way.
A big part of it. Big part of it. He bought a bunch of houses before
Mhm.
'08 when they were giving out mortgages to anybody, and he bought a bunch of property. He bought kind of like an entire block. He bought like
Mm.
I don't know 3, 4, 5, 6 houses on one block.
Yeah.
And when everything crashed, I think most people they couldn't afford their payments and foreclosed. Everything went crazy. But he had rented out all the rooms in the houses to the fighters that were training at his gym. So they got a good price for a room, and he was able to pay his mortgage, and
Yeah.
it was that was kind of like my blueprint. When I got enough money, I bought a house here in Seaford, and I rented out rooms to fighters, and just
Oh.
kept saving my money. The mortgage was paid for,
Yeah.
stacking up, doing it again, and that was kind of like my intro to real estate. I got my license when I was injured. I got my real estate license in it was like 2015, 2015, 2016, I think. I got injured. I had a pretty serious knee injury, and I was like, I can't fight for a little bit, but what am I going to do? I got my real estate license, started learning things on that end as far as like retail sales and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Towards the end of your career, you were famously working in real estate and also still training and competing in the UFC. That was one of the things they were talking. They would talk about that in the commentary and some of your walkouts and the fights, and that you were doing that. And you were one of the first guys to really put pressure on Dana White and the team there. And you were vindicated in the end because it turned out everything you were saying was right about fighter pay and being able to live. And look what's happened. I'm not a major critic of the UFC. I mean, I'm so grateful for everything that they've done. But I think the fighters should get paid also, and I think they should live and have health insurance and be able to support their families. So you were one of the first loud voices for that. I commend you.
Yeah, thank you. It was not fun. It was not by choice, that's for
Yeah.
sure. I was definitely It was unfortunate, to be honest, but I suffered a really serious knee injury on the Ultimate Fighter, and it had bugged me for many years. And then I had to have a surgery, and UFC wasn't really supporting me having this surgery. I went out and I sought out the best surgeon, which was Hospital for Special Surgery in Manhattan, which charges 2-3 times what a normal surgery would cost because of who they are, and Dr. Riley Williams, who he is. And the UFC was like, a normal surgery cost, I forget what it was, 20,000. The surgery I wanted to have was 60,000 at HSS.
Yeah.
And the UFC was like denying me the surgery. And I was like, how is that possible? I'm fighting with the UFC. I was hurt in the UFC. Like,
right.
And I ended up losing like 6-8 months just arguing over trying to get the surgery. I went out, and that's what I was supposed to fight Thiago Alves at MSG, and then pulled out because of the knee injury, and then needed surgery, and I was asking for more money, and it was a whole I ended up getting banned for bonuses because I spoke. They made up some nonsense where I couldn't win bonuses because. But it was all like it's all subjective stuff, and all like it's very none of that stuff would fly in a business that's not a monopoly, and that.
And how about the fact that, and that's why I said you were vindicated, is because all of that changed. After you were one of the first loud voices, but that all of that now has changed, and it didn't change the easy way. It changed the hard way after the fighters demanded it, rightfully so.
Well, I don't know if it's changed necessarily. There's been a class action lawsuit that was settled. The first portion of the class action lawsuit, it got broken up into 2 portions, and now I think there's 2 more on the way that have been filed. But the UFC did settle 300 and something million goes to the fighters that fought between 2012 and 2017 because they settled, and if they didn't settle, it was going to go to trial, and the UFC would have had to answer for suppressing fighter pay, and could have been treble damages, and it could have been also amendments to the contracts, or the things would have changed big time.
Yeah.
But the UFC did settle, so the fighters will get paid, but not too much changes. Now there is another lawsuit, 2017, I believe, till the present day, and fighters in that class are about to go into the same round 2. Ding ding.
Round 2. And, I thought it was in terms of like the benefits package, the partnership with HSS, and all that stuff. But first of all, what I wanted to really say to you on this note is that what an education it gave you to go into the real estate business with deal making.
Yeah.
You went toe to toe with the best fighters in the world, right? Some consider, and you were one of them. You went toe to toe with Dana White, who's one of the best negotiators in the world, in a way that no one else. And then now you go into a career in real estate where you're going to have to go and put together, do deal making on behalf of your clients. I just find it to be a great education for, your future career. So did you carry those lessons forward into the real estate business? What was it like starting out? I know must have been an absolute grind at the beginning.
Yeah. No, 100% was a grind. Almost like a false sense of, now while I was getting some deals sent to me because I was a UFC fighter and people had seen me fight and they had heard me talk about real estate. So I did get some deals that way. The other side of the coin was that a lot of people did not care one bit who I was or what I've done in the fight game. If I'm talking to a 65-year-old housewife who wants to sell her house and I start talking about the UFC, nothing turns her off and has her pick up the phone and call another agent faster. So I had to really use it when I could, and then I also had to learn the real estate game in and out, where the the fight aspect of things that people just didn't care. It almost hurt me. You know what I mean? Like, oh, UFC, that's crazy. You're nuts. Goodbye. You know what I mean? So in some ways it helped, in some ways it hurt. I had to really learn I had to learn the business. I had to learn, it wasn't like I just picked up the real estate thing and it came easy. It was a whole nother, it was like learning jujitsu, like learning Muay Thai, like learning wrestling. It's an art form, sales and knowing the product, knowing what, Long Island is something that I've been here, I've lived here. My father's coached. I've seen. I could probably navigate. Like if you told me to go somewhere, like I could probably get there without GPS. That's how well I think I know Long Island. I could probably tell you like, all right, it takes you 30 minutes to get here or 15 minutes to get there. If traffic's bad, you could do, so I love Long Island. I really do. I think it's a place it's a hidden gem, especially in the summer. There's like something. Oh, there we go. Love it.
I got your site up over here, iaquintarealestate.com, and you're talking about the Long Island IQ.
Yeah. It's the blog on the website. We talk about just current events on Long Island, and it's something that I love. The real estate. It's a product that I love is Long Island. Areas on Long Island, seeing what you can afford. When I bought my first house, it was like the best process. That's what really got me into real estate, residential sales, was looking at what I could afford, where I could afford, what would I have to do to be able to afford this here, or it's great. And Long Island's such a great place. You got so much. Property taxes are a little high, but that's what you want. I don't want to live somewhere where I don't have to pay a lot of property taxes. I want to pay property taxes because that means I'm getting what I'm paying for. I'm going to the beach in the summer. I can go to Manhattan, 45 minutes on the train, Montauk, the Hamptons, the North Shore. I can go to Bayville. They got Halloween's coming up. They got the Scream Park in Bayville. It's sick.
Oh yeah.
There's so much here on Long Island. You have everything, and
I said to my wife all the time, like, I feel so grateful to live here. My wife is from Florida. In 2018, I was still flipping homes. I flipped like 12 homes between 2011 and 2018. Around 2018, the margins got really tight, but this one deal came about in Syosset. $800,000. I was going to buy this incredible home, 2 acres, the best street, the best neighborhood. It was in disrepair, and it needed probably $500,000 in work.
Oh my God!
So I would already saw my contractor. Now my wife and I just gotten married, just had our first child, and I take her out to see this house, and I say to her, "Listen, the market's a little soft right now. This is going to be my biggest flip. I just wanted to let you know that, like, in the event that I can't sell this house, like, we might have to move into it for some time. But look, it's in like one of the best neighborhoods on Long Island." I tell her. She's like, "I'm never moving to Long Island."
Wow.
So I was like, all right, well, maybe I shouldn't do this deal then, because, we were going to start to think about homes. She was finishing up her residency. She's a doctor. And then about a year and change later, COVID hits. And what happens? We pack up apartment in New York City. We never went back there. I moved out to my parents' house in the Hamptons.
Wow.
So after that, we moved to Long Island. She finishes up her residency. She gets a job, and she's working half the time in Setauket, Long Island, in Suffolk County, and half the time in Manhattan. Like, well, we got to find a place to live. What's halfway in between Setauket and New York City? We did this with our finger. Boop. Syosset.
That's incredible.
We ended up buying a house in Muttontown, but in Syosset School District. And I say to her, Can you believe we could have been here this whole time, instead of paying almost double what this house is? So I looked up that house. It sold again in 2020. Guess how much it sold for?
Oh man, it sold for a lot more. A lot more.
More.
Twice as much.
$3 million.
Wow.
So I would have been into it. I would have bought it for 8. I would have been into it probably for like, to call it $1.5 million.
Yeah.
And then it would be worth 3 today. So it would have been a good deal. I always joke about the shoulda, coulda, woulda on the houses and the real estate you could have bought. But to your point, this is a great place to live. I'm proud to live here. I love living here. I love that guys like you love living here. We're very, very, very lucky to be in the, New York metropolitan area, around the city, and then have all this. I know you love your boat, right? You're on the water.
Yeah. It's the South Shore of Long Island as a boater is just incredible. I've been on the water now 3 years, and this is my the first year I was just kind of like tweaking the boat, getting it right. It was like I bought a boat that needed a lot of work, which I didn't know at the time, but it was took me a little while. But these last 2 years, it is like my fiance's. She belongs to the West Islip. It's the Babylon Yacht Club in West Islip, and they go out there. You can pull the boat up. So I'll go from Merrick. I'll drive the boat out to West Islip, and I'll dock up there, and then every which way in between I've figured out, like, and I'm still exploring. There's so many different back ways and different restaurants. There's so many the restaurants on the water that you can pull up with your boat. You pull up to Salt in Merrick, Smuggler Jack's in Massapequa. There's the Vern is in Islip. I believe it's in West Islip. But
Jordan's Lobster Farm in Island Park.
Oh, Jordan's is incredible. We pulled up in Jordan's, and it's just it's incredible. Incredible.
That's great. It's really, really, really great. So now what are you working on these days? How's your company doing? I just pulled up let me share the screen again. And for those of you who are listening, it's Iaquintarealestate.com. Easy to find. Just Google Al's name. I see you got Aljamain Sterling on the roster over here too.
Actually, Aljo, unfortunately, he's going to have to come down from he let his license lapse. He was licensed for a very long time, and he let his license expire. So unfortunately, he's always welcome to come back, but he's just got to get that license.
Come on, Aljo, let's get you back in the business.
That guy doesn't need to be selling no houses right now. He's got listen, I was happy to have him, but he's got a title, a 145-pound title that he's chasing. So I think real estate will always be here for him. But right now, he's got to win that belt.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good. Well, listen, absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. I encourage you anytime you got anything to announce in your business life or others, please come back so we can hear about it and help you spread the word. And you're just a great, great guy. I'm so grateful for your support in my events and everything else. Thank you for all your support on social media of everything that I do. And looking forward to getting together with you again soon, whether it be for some shooting or for some training. And if there's any way that I could be of service to you in business or anywhere else, you just say the word and reach out to me and I'll be there for you.
Absolutely. Jordan, I really appreciate it, brother. Great. It was a great meeting you pretty recently, and just every connection that you've made, everything that you do, it's really incredible. So you're somebody that I haven't known too long, but I look up to and aspire to be more like already. It's the amount of people that were at the event and that I met, and it says a lot about you that you were able to bring people that are like-minded and goal-oriented, business-oriented, and obviously have a great love for jiu-jitsu and shooting guns, man. It's
listen, that's right in my wheelhouse. If I get any day where I wake up and I lift and I shoot guns at lunch and I do jiu-jitsu at night, that is my perfect day. Add my family in and my job in, and it's perfect.
That's it. That's all you need. That's all you really need. It's simple, but it's not. It's
good.
great.
Good. Hang around for a second and thank you again.
Awesome, brother. Cheers.